What's up, guys? I am back with a definitively true, objectively correct list of every single Kanye West album ranked best to worst on a tier list. So I'm going to go from S tier to F tier, and I'm going to start with College Dropout and work my way through the list. It's been a while since I last uploaded a video, but it's taken me quite a bit of time to just collect all my thoughts on every single Kanye West album. He has a lot, and as you know, he's got a very consistent catalogue, at least up until recent times. So putting everything from best to worst has been a real challenge, especially some of those middle rankings. So yeah, let's start with the College Dropout, his debut album. If this was a list of every single debut album from loads of different rappers, I'm sure this would be one of the best of all time. It is one of my favourites, and it's easily S tier. Kanye's writing is at the best it's ever been on songs like Family Business, Jesus Walk, Spaceship. Spaceship is one of my personal favourite. He goes into his personal life, his religious values, and how his career developed across these tracks. There are also all-time classics like All Falls Down and the iconic Celine and Johnson feature on that song, as well as Through the Wire, another amazing song from Kanye telling his story about how he got into a car crash and broke his jaw. The songs like that just showed how hungry he was at the time. I'd say some of the more underrated songs on this album, amongst maybe not amongst hardcore Kanye West fans, but amongst the general public, would be like Two Words with Mos Def, amazing feature, and Get 'Em High. I love both of those songs. I think the Chipmunk Soul production is perfect. There are no gaps, even though some of the songs I don't love as much, like Breathe In, Breathe Out. I'm not that much of a fan of that song, but it's still a good track. I cannot fault the way that the songs have been put together here. Never Let Me Down is probably the most underrated song that Kanye has ever put out. Jay-Z and Jay Ivy absolutely kill their verses, with the latter giving me one of my favourite performances on the whole album and one of my favourite features in the entirety of Kanye's discography. He's never mentioned. I don't ever see anyone talking about Jay Ivy as having an amazing verse. I suppose it's more of it's kind of like a slam poetry verse. It doesn't really flow the same way as a typical hip-hop song. However, it's so good, it's so well written. I also thought that Talib Kweli on Get 'Em High and Twister on Slow Jams are two other standout performances, but there aren't any bad ones on the entire album, luckily. It is just such a consistent project from start to finish. Next up, we've got Late Registration, another easy S tier for me. I'd say it's slightly worse than the College Dropout. Worse is quite a strong word. It's not. It depends on the day. It really depends on the day for me. It manages to take all of the best parts from his debut, and with the help of John Bryan, I think it is, they created this more orchestral blend of hip-hop that hadn't really been done before, and it's still not been topped to this day, and I don't see anyone doing it as well as Late Registration did it. It's still got that Chipmunk Soul style and feel to it at its core, but it's a lot more layered, more strings, more horns, and much more detailed arrangements. I also like the more serious tone that Kanye took on this project with songs like Roses and Crack Music, Diamonds from Sierra Leone. They dive into topics like systemic racism, consumerism, and personal loss in a way that feels a lot more refined and focused than before. It's another one of these albums in Kanye's discography that you could create just shuffle all the songs on the album and put any of them at the top, and I would probably say, yeah, that's fair enough. You can have that there. You could have Heard 'Em Say as your favourite. You could have We Major with Really Though and Nas. That is an amazing song. That's one of the biggest songs that Kanye has ever made. So with that being said, I think it's only in second place at the moment to the College Dropout, because at the time of recording, I prefer some of the highs off of the College Dropout more, although Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix is potentially my favourite Kanye song of all time. Okay, so next, Graduation. I'm going to put this one A tier. I think it is really good, and I see why loads of people love it, although it does have those two tracks which people know just don't stand up to the rest of the track list, unfortunately. It's a fan favourite release from Kanye, and after he dropped the two classics that we've spoken about already, he proceeded to change things up and go for a more synthy pop direction, pioneering a whole new genre in the process. If somebody asked me what is pop rap, I would simply show them this album. It is the epitome of easily listening hip-hop music. However, that doesn't mean that Kanye holds back at all on his production or his lyricism. You could argue that it's not as consciously great as the previous two releases. However, you can hear the tracks reflecting the stage of his life that he's in at the moment, with songs like Can't Tell Me Nothing being one of the best examples of that. He's on top of his game, he's triumphant, he's boastful. Many people's favourite songs are Good Morning, I Wonder, Can't Tell Me Nothing, and they're all amazing songs, but one of my personal favourites is Big Brother, where he breaks down his relationship with his idol and inspiration Jay-Z. He doesn't want to outshine him, but he also doesn't want to hold himself back, and it's one of the best reflective tracks that he's written in his whole discography, in my opinion. Yes, there are some mid songs here. Drunken Hot Girls, if we remove that song, would the track list be perfect? It's very close. Barry Bonds isn't as bad as Drunken Hot Girls. I quite like the production on that song, but I don't revisit it that often. So yeah, Graduation at the moment, I'm going to have it at the top of A tier. Next, we've got arguably the most influential album in the entirety of Kanye's discography, 808s and Heartbreaks. I am going to have this in B tier for now. I do enjoy this album, and there are some real highlights on here. Welcome to Heartbreak is one of my favourite Kanye songs that he's done with Kid Cudi. I think that track really epitomises the era of music that Kanye was in at this time. The way that this album went on to inspire other artists, like Drake, for example, on some of his earlier projects, it's amazing, really. It's once again Kanye changing genres and doing it brilliantly. He's done that for 4 albums in a row now. I will say that I think Say You Will sort of kind of drones on a little bit. It goes on for maybe a minute longer than I enjoy, and the last 4 songs on the album kind of lose some steam. I think Pinocchio Story is a cool track and it is very emotional. However, I don't think having a live song to end off this track list works very well. I think if it was a studio version, it would be near the top of the track list, in my opinion. However, unfortunately, the production isn't quite there on that song to make me ever want to revisit it. For sure, at this point in his career, this was the saddest album that he'd ever put out, the most personal and intimate album following the death of his mother. So for the time being, I'm going to leave it in B tier. Following on from 808s and Heartbreaks, we have My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, another S tier, and personally, my favourite Kanye West album. I think it's his most cinematic, his most outgoing. Yeah, it tells a really intimate story. Thematically, we jump between drugs and sex to the next moment we're discussing racial injustice, and then we're back onto like love and religion. Power and All the Lights are some of his most globally recognisable songs, and that don't sacrifice their writing and maximalist production for public appeal. The feature list is also stacked with the likes of Nicki Minaj giving a generational feature on Monster, as well as Jay-Z and Pusha T giving some of my favourite verses on So Appalled. Many people would point to Blame Game as being the weak point of this album. However, I don't really see it that way. It is definitely my least favourite song here, but the Aphex Twin sample alongside John Legend's heavenly vocals works incredibly well. It's got perfect production on that song. Many people also skip the track because of the long section where Chris Rock goes back and forth with this woman, but I think thematically it makes a lot of sense to have that there, especially at the point in the track list where we've gone through the character's story up until this point. A lot of people also disregard Hell of a Life too, but the interpolation / sample, I'm not quite sure which one it is, from Black Sabbath's Iron Man is one of the best in his entire catalogue. It's such a high energy song. And again, it fits perfectly with the themes of the album. I think that the reason that I have it slightly higher than the College Dropout and Late Registration is just because it's very concise compared to those projects. I think there's only 13 songs. There's only 13 songs. But again, one of them is the outro track, Who Will Survive in America, which is more of a outro to the song Lost in the World, which is, again, it's another song that people underrate on this album, but Bon Iver's sample is brilliant here, brilliantly used. So I think that the intimacy of the project, the vulnerability, the maximalist production, as well as how concise it feels and how easy it is to listen from front to back, that is at my number 1 spot at the moment in Kanye's discography. Next up, we've got the collaboration with Jay-Z, Watch the Throne. I think, I'm going to have this slightly lower than 808s and Heartbreaks. It is close, and I'd say the highs on Watch the Throne are higher. However, the tracklist is a little bit more inconsistent. It does contain some of Jay-Z and Kanye's most iconic songs of all time, but it also hides some good and bad deep cuts in equal measure. I'd say that No Church in the Wild and Paris, I'll leave it at Paris, are 2 of the most easily recognisable pop rap songs of all time. They're incredibly catchy. They've been used really well in popular culture. Then there's Otis, which shows that Kanye is still on top of his production. The sample flip is amazing. I'll go as far to say that it is a perfect song. They bounce back and forth off of each other so well. Unfortunately, New Day attempts to use another iconic sample. however this time from Nina Simone, and unfortunately it doesn't work as well in my opinion. I find it slightly annoying after a few listens. Murder to Excellence is another one of my favourite songs off of this album. It's one of my favourite conscious cuts from Kanye. I think the line 314 soldiers died in Iraq, 509 died in Chicago is probably my favourite line from the entire album. It effortlessly tells the story of the song in just one line. On the other hand, the 3-song run, That's My Bitch, Welcome to the Jungle, and Who's Gonna Stop Me all have pretty forgettable writing and production. It really varies in quality towards the midsection of this track list. I'm also not a fan of the closer either. I bet this was a really exciting album when it came out. It's not aged as well as lots of other Kanye projects, but it's still in B tier for me. I'd still say it's a great project. Next up, Yeezus. I want to put it in A tier, but I can't, just because of a few of the songs here not living up to the high standards that the rest of the album has. This album definitely only does have 10 songs, so it is a nice, concise track list. It's another massive U-turn in Kanye's career after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was such a massive success. I love the industrial jump scare that we get on this album. I'd say that On Sight would probably kill off my grandparents fairly easily. When Ye was working alongside Mike Dean, we got some of his greatest songs of all time. Hold My Liquor is one of my favourite songs from him in his entire discography. It's maybe like top 5. It's so psychedelic, and the features from Chief Keef and Justin Vernon are excellent. There are also massive commercial hits on this album, Black Skinhead, Bound To, which have totally different sounds and styles, but they're both great in their own way. The track list is held back from being a potential perfect album by Guilt Trip and I'm In It. I'd say the lyrics on I'm In It are very surface level. The production doesn't suck me in like the rest of the track list, and with Guilt Trip, it's just a miss for me. The Cuddy feature on the bridge falls flat, and once again the production isn't as interesting as the rest of the album. Finally, Send It Up has some great production here, but I found the performance from Kanye and King Louis, they weren't that exciting to me. I've been revisiting Blood on the Leaves a lot actually recently, and I think the sample that is used on that song has grown on me over time. I thought initially it wasn't a very tasteful use of that song, because if you know the context of the original song Strange Fruit, you'll understand why it was probably a little bit strange for someone to use it on this intense song about like love and partying. However, over time it has grown on me, and I just adore the production on this song. It's so loud and insane. It's probably the most insane Kanye has sounded up until this point in his career. Talking about Kanye sounding insane, I would think that Life of Pablo is one of his craziest projects that he's released. It is so up and down and all over the place in terms of themes, production, features. It is a real strange like compilation of songs that initially didn't work for me, and it took me about 2 years for me to revisit most of the songs here. Luckily I decided to give it another go this week, and I realised how many great songs that I'd skipped over before. Listening to the tracks I hadn't heard since my first listen was a little bit like discovering new music. I didn't enjoy Wolves on the first listen, as I found the howling backing vocals to be quite annoying, and it is a weirdly structured song with a lot of the production being quite offbeat, off time. But this time I loved it. I thought that the Sia feature was brilliant, and that Kanye's verses were insane, and they're like his closing verse about Mary and Joseph is very strange and just confusing, but it is good and it flows really well. The same goes for Highlights, FML and Fade. The only song I'd consider a skip here would probably be Freestyle. It's still a bit too abstract and weird for me, honestly. Of course we have songs like Ultralight Beam and iconic Father Stretch My Hands, Saint Pablo, one of his greatest songs of all time, one of my favourite features from Sampha of all time, and of course Waves, all of which are S tier Kanye West songs for me. I think that the Stacks feature list really helps to like boost this album up to A tier because of performances like Chance the Rapper on Ultralight Beam, Kendrick on No More Parties in LA, of course, and as I mentioned before, Sia and Wolves. I would consider in the future potentially moving it above Graduation, because I do come back to many of the songs on Life of Pablo a lot more. I just think that Life of Pablo overall has a few more skips. Okay, following on from that, 2018, first project from 2018 that Kanye released, self-titled Yay. I think that I will put this between Yeezus and 808s and Heartbreaks. Although the album isn't as amazing as his collaboration with Kid Cudi later that year, or about a week later I think it was, Ye still has amazing moments, and it is a really worthwhile listen. Finding out that Yikes was made for Drake was so funny to me, because I'd listened to the song and immediately sent it to my brother with a message saying, hey, check out this song, it sounds like the kind of song Drake would rap on. Finding how this was supposed to be a Drake beat, but Kanye just took it back and just rapped over it himself was brilliant. I love how unhinged Ye sounds on this project at times, with the obvious being the intro track, I Thought About Killing You, which I don't particularly love that song. I'm not revisiting it that often. Yikes, yeah, he sounds insane on that song, and I do love that track. But then he sort of reins it back in with some of these other songs like Ghost Town, which is a massive fan favourite and has great features as well as Violent Crimes, which is one of the times that Ye gets vulnerable about his kids, and it is a very touching song and like quite sad as well, especially now, like seeing how his life's gone. It is like a very sad song. Like I said before, it's not as good as the following album, Kids See Ghosts, which I'm going to put it at the bottom of S tier. It is one of the best produced albums I've ever heard, one of the most unique sounding hip-hop albums I've ever heard. It's definitely the best release that was part of the Good Music 2018 run, and it comes just ahead of Daytona for me in my own personal rankings. Kanye and Cudi are on peak form here, with both giving some of their most open and intimate verses of all time, such as on Reborn, where the focus is on mental health, or on Cudi Montage, where Kanye gives one of his greatest conscious verses of all time, discussing gang violence and the loss that families experience from it. One of my favourite sample flips of all time can be found on Fourth Dimension, where the classic Christmas song, What Will Santa Claus Say, by Louis Prima, is reversed and distorted and gives us one of the greatest beats in all of Kanye's catalogue. I also adore Cudi's verse here. It might be my favourite that I've heard from him, although I'm not entirely sure. He's got so many good verses on this album, as well as other projects, his own Man on the Moon series, as well as other Kanye West songs. Regarding the other features, I think that Pusha T really shines on the opening track, bringing his classic coke rap style, followed with some insane ad-libs from Kanye, I guess. Ty Dolla $ign also shines on Free, Ghost Town Part 2, where he gives us heavenly vocals. I wish that he would focus on this part of his toolkit more, as when Ty participates on songs as a melodic feature, he sounds incredible. So I'd say the only reason Kids See Ghosts isn't higher up, I think if it was based on the average track ranking, I would have it above Late Registration, but the thing is it's only 7 songs, and so Late Registration has more 10 out of 10 songs than Kids See Ghosts actually just has songs. Considering how good Late Registration is on a whole as well, it's only a few points behind Kids See Ghosts. I'm going to have it slightly above. Next up, a massive switch up from Kanye again with Jesus Is King. Unfortunately, it's going to go into D tier, because I think that for what the album could have been, it doesn't hit as hard as it should have. I'd say that Jesus Is King is one of the most divisive albums that Kanye has ever released, thanks to, once again, a complete thematic switch, this time onto Christianity and gospel music. There are highs and lows on the project, which I think must be due to a lack of attention or time during the production process, as a lot of the writing feels quite hollow and surface level, and at times actually goes against the Christian message. Donda would go on to correct a lot of these issues, and if Kanye use this gospel and follow God from Jesus Is King and combined it with the 10 highlight songs off of Donda, we would have got an amazing Christian hip-hop album. Instead, we get songs like Closed on Sunday, which is honestly on the same level as some of the slop from Vultures 1 and 2. Although luckily most of the songs are fine, and there is a massive gap between Jesus Is King and anything which is going to be below it. Overall, the album has some great songs and great moments, but it just feels rushed and fairly empty. I think Kanye knew he could do better, and he in fact did do better on the following album, Donda. I'm going to put Donda at C tier, not because it doesn't have some of my favourite Kanye songs of all time. It's, in my opinion, his most inconsistent project. If you take a couple of songs off the deluxe version, specifically Life of the Party, and whittle down the track list to 12 songs, you'd end up with an 8 or a 9 out of 10 album. Unfortunately, the sheer bloat spoils the project's overall ranking, in my view. I love Jesus Lord as well as Jesus Lord Part 2, and how lyrically deep it is. Pure Souls is another favourite of mine thanks to the lyricism and minimalistic beat. The two 10 out of 10 songs that I have on this album are completely different in tone. However, they both managed to rank respectively in my top 20 and top 10 Kanye West songs of all time. Off the Grid is, at the time of recording, my favourite drill song that I've ever heard, although I've not heard tons, and Come to Life gives me shivers, especially as the song just builds and builds and builds with the piano melody. It is a beautiful song. Unfortunately, as stated before, there is a bunch of bloat, such as Junior, New Again, Remote Control. Playboy Carti continues to be awful in just everything he does, excluding maybe Off the Grid. Although, even with that song, I sort of listened to his verse, just waiting to get onto 5 Foreign and Kanye. The part 2s, in general, should have just been left off of the project, although, like I said before, I do like Jesus Lord Part 2. I don't think the part 2s add enough to the original to warrant being the closers to the album. Now we're on to the point in Kanye's career where I think it really started going downhill. I'm going to put Donda 2 next, and it's going to go in the F tier. I didn't have high hopes for the quote-unquote official release that came out in 2025, originally only available on the strange speaker that Kanye was selling. I think he decided to release it on streaming services amongst the controversy surrounding like Cousins, World War III. Although this release fixed many of the issues with the STEM Player Edition, it's still pretty bad. I think that Get Lost, Louis Bags and Security of some of the worst songs he's ever released, but we do get a few decent tracks here. I enjoyed the drill production and Future feature on Mr. Miyagi, even though that song has now been removed from Spotify. It's so lyrically dumb, but it's a great track to blast on the aux. I also thought that the 5 Foreign track City of God is pretty good, and I don't mind Kanye's feature on that. However, obviously that shouldn't have been here because it was already released on 5 album Bible. I don't have much more to say about Donda 2. It is very disappointing, and yeah, it is the start of the downhill trend that we'll see with the rest of these albums. Closely following Donda 2 in terms of quality, Vultures from 2024 is going straight in F tier. As a standalone project, it's not awful, but thanks to Ye's actions during this time, it's horribly tainted with anti-Semitism and hate, and there are even lyrics related to this in the album itself, so you can't even separate the art from the artist at this point. As I was saying before on Kids See Ghost, I think that Ye and Ty works really well together, and I think that if this album came out a few years earlier, I think it would have been pretty good. As I was saying, I've always enjoyed Ty's features, but yeah, this is definitely a low point in both of their careers. I don't have anything else really to say about this awful era of Kanye West, so we'll move on to an even worse part of his career, Vultures 2. This is definitely his worst album, and it's the most unfinished, AI-riddled thing that he's ever put out. Songs like Slide, Dead and Forever Rolling once again show that Ty and Ye can work pretty well together, and there is potential, but the production is so bad that it drags these songs down by at least several points. Then there are songs like Bomb and Husband, which are really, really bad. Like, I don't know how Kanye released them bad. I do not want a Vultures 3. Apparently we're getting that this year. I don't want that. Get rid of it. And finally, on to his most recent release, Bully. Bully is a lot better than the Vultures era, as well as Donda 2, but it's not quite on the same level as Donda or any of these albums above here. I'd say it's fighting for position with Jesus is King, but I think that Jesus is King sounds more of a finished project overall. Bully was definitely one of my most anticipated albums of this year, not necessarily because I thought it was going to be good, but I just was excited to see what Ye could put out at this point in his career. I love All the Love, Sisters and Brothers, as well as Bully. The intro track King is great, and I think Father has also grown on me quite a bit. I still would like to see what would happen with a Ye and Travis Scott collab album. I really enjoy the combination of like the dark melodic parts from 808s with the abrasive Yeezus instrumentals and production style. However, it's again tainted by potential AI usage and a lack of polish and finish, with some of the songs on the album reaching only like 1.5 minutes long, and they're more interludes and just unfinished tracks. I don't think that they've edited any of the mixing on this album yet. I know that they removed Don Toliver from Circles. Just remove the song at this point, please. So at this stage, if it's not been updated, I think it's below Jesus is King. It does have potential to move up, but I think it's going to be stuck at this level unless they do something like they did with Life of Pablo and just add like a great song. Maybe they'll release a deluxe version which will add some improvements, but I really doubt it. Well, thank you very much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think of my final tier list here. I think that Kanye has one of the strongest discographies in hip-hop history. Anything from B tier and up, even you know what, even from C tier and up, I love these albums. I think that Donda has so much good on it that it does, again, it's just bloated. It just has a lot of songs which could have been cut. But the highs on Donda are amazing, and they would fit in alongside any of the songs from S tier and A tier. The last 5 years or so of Kanye's career have really gone downhill musically and emotionally for him. I hope he gets better, and I hope he can get some like medication that can help him, or just like some supportive people around him to stop him crashing out again. Because I would like to see some more good music from him, and we know he can bounce back now that we've seen Bully is a lot better than Vultures and Donda 2. Please let me know what you think of my track listing in the comments. Tell me where you would have different albums, what your A tier, S tier would look like. Would you have Yeezus in S tier? I know lots of people love that album so much, but again, it's just there's a couple of songs on there which don't click for me at all. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Again, yeah, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading more music-related content in the following week. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do next, as there's not been too many things releasing that have been catching my attention, but I'll have a look on Album of the Year and make a decision then. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.